Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt,
And I'm Denny Dumas.
and this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast.
The last month and a half have been very interesting. There's been a lot of changes in the real estate world. It is May 11th. Excuse me. Welcome to real estate. It is 7 o'clock in the morning, so we are slightly tired. We're in the middle of busy season. Yeah, a lot's changed. The interest rates have climbed pretty quickly in the last month and a half, and significantly. There's some new announcements from the provincial and federal government around real estate. And naturally, because we've seen such a busy period over the last 18 to 24 months in Greater Vancouver real estate, naturally the market is kind of plateauing and I mean, we'll go as far as using the word slow in some neighborhoods throughout Greater Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. So today's episode is going to be a little bit on marketing your home. If you are thinking of selling this spring, if you are a realtor who sells homes this spring, what adjustments do you need to make? And as a seller, what should you be looking for in the person that you hire?
Well, we talk about this all the time. Marketing is really, really important. Now more than ever, during times when the market is a little bit cooler or slower, you have to do your job with listings. It has to start at the photo shoot. It has to, you have to be using your social media platforms. You have to really be putting it out there to as many different platforms as you can. And the package needs to look nice. The photos have to be beautiful. The video has to be done. You have to get a floor plan. And you have to have open houses, and you have to show it, and you have to say yes to all your showings.
I think it's important to note that a lot of what we're going to kind of mention today is really a system that we've developed that works, that gets as much exposure to listings as possible in that week or two, or, you know, right now we're seeing listings sit a little bit longer than we're used to, but in those couple of weeks that we're on market, our goal is to get as many eyeballs to that property as possible. And this is kind of the system and the detail of system that we've come up with. But in busy markets like the last 18 months, there are still people making mistakes that result in lower sale prices. It's just in a busy market, when you get 6 offers, the seller is usually pumped because you're getting a subject-free offer above asking price. And so in these slower markets, these details that are missed can result in a property not selling, can result in a property not getting many showings, versus in a busy market, it likely results in a lower than could have been achieved sale price, which is unnoticeable from a seller perspective. But when their property is not getting an offer, is not getting many showings, and does not sell in those first few weeks like they think it's going to, that's very noticeable. And that's when sellers get quite frustrated.
Oh, for sure. I think that right now, I mean, we'll talk later about seller expectations, but in order to get the most out of your property, it's really about the first week. It's about the few days leading up to a listing going live, and it's about the first week. And we've said this many times in the past, especially in slower markets. If you don't see an offer within the first 3 weeks, it's usually a reflection of you're not priced right. It's not, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something not working with your listing. Right now, listings are still selling. They're still selling within a few weeks, 2 weeks usually, sometimes a little bit less. It's really, really important to have all your ducks in a row at the very beginning of your listing. There's a lot more forgiveness when the market is really busy, a lot more forgiveness for listings. Like, you can kind of be a little bit sloppy and not have all the right answers, and you can kind of just coast through it. You can't coast through it right now. You need to know exactly what dates your seller is looking for. You need to know exactly what terms in the contract they're looking for. All your paperwork needs to be prepared so that you have the best chance at getting a clean offer, or just the best chance at when you have the right offer that goes through.
There's some in-depth marketing things that we do that work, that get dialed in slow times like this. But there are also some extremely simple things that sometimes get overlooked in busy markets, like having photos ready when your listing hits MLS to upload immediately. In slow market, we're using the word slow. Let's just kind of summarize that some neighborhoods in the Fraser Valley are quite slow right now. inventory is building up. Price points are coming off their peak pricing from February. And other neighborhoods in Greater Vancouver, such as pockets in North Van, some pockets in Port Moody, still some spots in East Vancouver, are still very, very active. The listings are getting multiple offers and selling above list price still. So we're just kind of summarizing here in terms of overall market activity, and overall sales activity is slowing in the last couple months. But the simple things like having photos ready. When there's more inventory on the market, buyers get more selective. And so when they see a listing hit their feed, hit their email box, and there's no photos, and they go back to check it 3, 4, 6 hours later, and there's still no photos, sometimes they just hit delete, right? They've seen 15 properties in the last 2 weeks come up, and now they're being really picky, and them getting a little bit annoyed potentially means they're not coming to see your listing.
Yeah, you have to be so careful. And the photos thing is spot on. In busy markets, I'll have so many buyers sending me, like within 20 minutes of something listing, being like, where are the photos for this one? Within 20 minutes. And now it's like, if the photos don't go up, they're on to the next one because they have choices. Choices is like death to listings. When there are choices, yours needs to shine. And that's like just point blank. When there are more opportunities for buyers to buy properties, yours needs to look the best. That's just period.
On the point of the photos, like it's becoming less and less common, which is great in our industry, great for buyers, great for people you're selling their multi-million-dollar homes for, but really good professional photography, really good professional videography is so important when markets slow that, like Monica said, how do you make your listing shine above the inventory in that neighborhood? And having really good photos means you're going to be busier. Like we had a perfect example in Queensboro a week and a half ago that the seller spent the extra week or two to get their home ready, doing paint touch-ups, decluttering. They had kids, so it's frustrating and annoying and very time consuming to do all of this stuff, but it makes a huge difference. Like we had 35 showings in a week, and then a very similar listing listed the next week and had a quarter of those showings.
Yeah, a quarter. And as far as we know, sold for quite a bit less. Yeah.
A lot less.
Yeah.
On the marketing stuff, a lot of agents are still not doing this. And a lot of realtors are doing property videos now, which is great. But they're not selling neighborhoods in property videos. And I think that is such a key element, especially when markets slow a little bit, is educating buyers on what the experience of living in that home is going to be. And that is not only using the actual square footage of the home and the yard that comes with it, but it is the neighborhood amenities, it is the schools, it is the parks, it is the restaurants and coffee shops nearby, it is the hiking and biking trails, it is all of that mixed into one of like, this is the lifestyle that is going to be available for you in this specific home, right?
Right. This, the past few years have definitely blurred the lines of where people are willing to live throughout Vancouver and the suburbs. So it's really, really important to highlight neighborhoods. It's important to know about the neighborhoods that you're selling a home in as well. You need to know what schools are there. You need to know where the local coffee shops are, the hidden parks that people don't know about because they're hidden in the neighborhood. You really do need to know the neighborhood that you're selling in, and you need to let the potential buyers know about the neighborhoods. It's extremely important when you have somebody that's never even been to North Vancouver. Like you need to let them know what they're buying. They're buying a location, they're buying a street, they're buying a culture, a community, and you need to let them know. And the property video is the best way to do that.
So both Monica and I live in Port Moody. We recently went into a presentation center in Port Moody, and the person there was talking about the neighborhood, and it was a short conversation, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And in that 3 or 4 minutes, we corrected her 5 or 6 times, just saying, well, that's not where that is. The breweries are actually over there, and Rocky Point's right there. And this is where the middle school is. You said it was on the other side of the project. It's actually over here. And like, this is not to call this person out in any way, but
it's funny.
It's more just like an example of when buyers are coming through your open houses or your showings and they're asking you these questions. One, it leaves a poor impression on them as they're leaving that reflects on the listing. It reflects on your seller, and it ultimately negatively affects your seller. And 2, it looks poorly on you. A lot of buyers are starting to venture out to open houses again. A lot of them are unrepresented and not working with realtors. And when they leave thinking, that person had no clue what they were talking about. I actually live in this neighborhood. I'm looking to upsize. I know where all of this stuff is, and they didn't know how to answer any of my questions. It looks bad on you.
The best way to avoid this, listen, it's okay. We all know that there's agents, there's realtors that list all over the place, and it's sometimes impossible to know exactly what you're doing in every single neighborhood. The easiest way to sound super smart is just to ask the seller. When you're at photo day or when you're writing the description of the property, just ask the seller, what's your favorite thing about living in this neighborhood? Where's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite coffee shop? Do you like what schools are nearby? What parks are your favorite? Like it's really easy to get all of this information. You just have to ask. The sellers usually know a lot more about the property than you ever will. So you need to ask the seller about the neighborhood if you're not sure about it. And they always know like the special little tips that people love, like the best bakery or the best coffee shop. The sellers know. Just ask them.
Even if it's not, and it's their personal favorite, then when a buyer's coming through the open houses ask you, you have the same passion because you're just relaying what the seller told you, right? Oh, they have the best croissant, even if it's a garbage croissant.
It doesn't matter.
Right? The seller loves it. And so you're like sharing that neighborhood people love this specific bakery, probably just because it's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, totally. And often the sellers will start talking about neighborhood, like Halloween trick-or-treating events and Christmas light events. And you'll never know that unless you were listing it during Christmas, that there's a huge Christmas fair or something. But buyers love to hear about that kind of stuff.
Okay, so a few other ways to get extra exposure to your listings in slower markets. So one is having that professional marketing package really dialed in, working with someone that, is an expert in this field of photography and videography, and exposing it on social media. So Paragon is great. That's MLS for all our buyers and sellers out there. Paragon is our realtor MLS system. MLS is great. Any listing that pops up on MLS is probably going to get a couple hundred views, 300 views maybe on Paragon, and that is where serious buyers are looking. But our goal with any listing is to maximize exposure, to get more people to see it than should see it, or to get a couple extra consumers curious or considering a new neighborhood because they saw our stuff on social media. And in slower markets like this, it is more important to share multiple posts. One post with one kitchen photo hitting, hey, new listing, it's listing on Saturday or on Monday, open house on Saturday, and then just forgetting about it for the rest of the couple weeks that it's on market, I think is inexcusable. It's multiple posts throughout the first week. It's multiple posts in the second week if you haven't sold it yet. And it is sharing different things. It is sharing neighborhood stuff. It is sharing the updates that the seller's done. It is sharing maybe a drone photo showing the location in the neighborhood. It is, all of this stuff. But it is more effort, more posts, more rather than just one and forget, like a lot of our industry was used to over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we have a direct success story talking about this. Recently, we had a listing in the key area of New West. It was a really awesome condo with a huge 500 square foot patio with trees and everything. It was gorgeous. And it was a slow listing, I'm not going to lie. It was really slow. Both open houses were not that exciting. There was some traffic, but not tons because it's slowed down. The night before we were looking at offers, we had 2 showing requests. One came from REW, which is MLS, Paragon, whatever. And then another showing came from a realtor that had seen it on our Instagrams. And his client was looking for a townhome or something with some outdoor space or maybe a ground floor condo for his clients. So his client's search criteria was set up for a ground floor condo with a patio or fenced in yard or a small townhouse. That was the criteria. We had a 4th floor condo with a massive deck. They would have never seen it because their criteria would have completely excluded that condo. He saw it on one of our Instagrams that day, sent it to her that night, and she came to see it because I just happened to be there showing it to another buyer. And they put an offer in the next day. Now, sadly, they didn't get it. They didn't get it, but the other buyer did. But we had 2 offers. So that put us into a multiple offer situation, and we were able to get quite a bit more for our client. So that shows you the importance of using other platforms besides just MLS, because some people get some search criteria in their head. And if the realtor doesn't know to tell them, hey, there are these certain buildings in the Key that have huge walkout patios, but they're on the 4th floor. If your realtor doesn't know that because he's not local, which is totally fine, how else are you going to find that place? And he found it through Instagram. So it was pretty cool.
I'm glad you bring up the topic of showings because, obviously it's been a difficult juggle in the last couple of years of figuring out like what consumers are comfortable with, what our sellers are comfortable with, what other realtors are comfortable with, what buyers are comfortable with. It's been strange, but it seems like now we are coming out of this COVID thing and open houses are back. Use them to your advantage. Again, markets are a little bit slower. If you post an open by or showing windows by appointment only, you're going to miss consumers. You're going to miss people coming through. So yes, year ago, if you posted a showing window, it would be full in 20 minutes. You'd have 40 showings. And if you could have had 60 showings, your seller would never know because it's going to sell over asking and it's going to get multiple offers, but you might miss the highest bidder. Versus now, those showings for a good listing in a good neighborhood are probably cut down a quarter. Maybe instead of getting 40, you're getting 8 or 10 now. But if you're doing open houses, you're just encouraging more people to come through. You're encouraging buyers who maybe haven't started the relationship with the realtor to come through, and we're getting more showings. That Queensboro listing last week was a great example that we probably had 8 realtors reach out to us to book showings, even though we post them as open houses. But we had 35 groups come through over the weekend. So most of them did not make an appointment. And I just, I'd say use this freedom to your advantage and post open houses and encourage people to come through. I still don't understand the idea that realtors were turning away people through this last 2 years. I just don't understand.
I'll never understand it. It's crazy. Turning away buyers is the craziest thing. But something that our team has really noticed, recently, of course, but we've really noticed over the years that we've been doing this, there's a lot of negative, there's a negative vibe around like the nosy neighbor coming to an open house. I think it's really hilarious because I know quite a few people who, for example, owned a townhome and bought a detached house in walking distance from their old townhouse because they're not leaving that community. They want to live in that community. I know a handful of people that have done that recently. I know dozens that have done it over the years. I'm one of them. My best friend's one of them. A client that recently bought in Queensboro is one of them. A guy that was looking at the Queensboro house this weekend is one of them. You can't like discount the local traffic. Local traffic and foot traffic at open houses is extremely important. Let them in. Let them bring mom and dad because they're hanging out on Sunday. Mom and dad are going to be like, wow, this house is great. You should buy it. Oh, we love it. We'll help you. Just let them in. Foot traffic is important. And nosy neighbors make your listings look busy and they keep your seller happy when they know that you've had quite a few showings that day.
I mean, there's so many reasons that it's a good thing to have open houses and encourage people to come through. One of which is a lot of people get obsessed with their neighborhoods, right? Like one of the first things people say when they're upsizing is, we don't want to leave our neighborhood. Well, why wouldn't you encourage those types of people that are not your client yet to come through your open house to see the upsizer product, right? 2, it is an opportunity for conversation to pick up new clients. Like this is, I started 8 years ago, and meeting people at open houses was probably my greatest form for the first 2 years of prospecting. That's where I met the most amount of people. That's where I turned them into clients and like sold them homes. Like this is what we do for a living, is we sell people homes and we want to help people. And why not meet people that are actively looking for an upsize or to buy a new home?
It's so true. That's actually how I met Denny. I was like, hey, you have a lot of open houses. Can I host them for you? Like, it's the best way to get leads.
I think my exact response was back off.
Yeah, it was.
The one thing I want to mention that we are starting to do again, and in busy times, in busy years, just the amount of time that it takes to do this, sometimes it falls through the cracks, but it is a really great way to market a new listing. It is a great way to market your team or your brand as well, is when you get a new listing, just talking about the neighborhood and how important it is to encourage people in the neighborhood to come through, is how do you let them know about the listing? If they're not watching MLS every day, they're not going to know. So one thing we try to do now for most listings is flyer drop a few times around each listing. So whether that is 100, 200, 300 homes, depends on how much time we have that week, but letting people know that we've just listed something in their neighborhood. They're looking to upsize, great, here's the open house times. Usually we're doing another open house flyer that just says, hey, we're doing an open house Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 4, whatever times. And then we're doing a just sold listed or a just sold flyer as well in that neighborhood. So as a real estate team, the just sold flyer is really benefiting us and not the seller in any way. But the first two are benefiting the seller as well. And people love the extra effort, especially in a slow market where you don't know if something is going to sell at week one. Showing as much effort, getting the extra little time consuming tasks out just to make sure that at the end of that first week or second week, if you do not have an offer, the seller is not concerned that maybe you didn't do enough, right? Like you're doing all these extra little things to try to get more people in the door. And then that conversation rarely comes up as, well, I only saw you post one time on your social media. You didn't do any extras. You didn't, why is there only 6 people coming through the door? Those conversations don't happen when you are spending the extra time to do these little extra marketing tasks.
I mean, let's be honest. That's what we're here for, right? Like when you get a listing, it's your Super Bowl. You just do everything. Every single thing you can do for your listing, you should be doing it. It's big. Listing agents, like this is our job. Treat it like the Super Bowl every single time you have a listing. I think that the flyer thing is really important. I think some people don't believe that it works, but it completely does. I had a buyer send me a picture of a flyer that their friend had gotten underneath the door of their condo in North Vancouver yesterday because there was a new listing in the building. And handwritten on the flyer was like, hey, do you still have a friend looking for a 2-bedroom? And it was slipped under their door. And then their friend sent them the picture and they sent it to me and we're going to go see it on Saturday. So it totally works. Flyers work.
It absolutely works.
Yeah.
Especially in those little pockets that are maybe challenging to get into or a little bit unknown, but the people that live there love it.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of people want to upsize in their neighborhoods, and this is just an easy way to let people know that there's a new listing in their neighborhood to come look at.
Yeah. Even in buildings, like some people who are in a 1-bedroom, but they want a 2 or 3-bedroom, or they want that specific one that has the cool terrace or whatever. Like it works in in buildings, condo buildings, townhouse complexes, detached neighborhoods. It works for all of it.
In summary, dial in your marketing, work with very, very, very good professionals that do your photos, videos, and floor plans, and go the extra mile right now in slower markets. Make sure that your seller is never going to ask you the question of, did you do enough marketing if my home doesn't sell?
Yeah. Be enthusiastic about your listings. Treat it like it's a Super Bowl.